Hello everyone, I welcome you all again in the next lecture of second law of thermodynamics. In the first lecture, we have seen the prerequisite required to understand the second law of thermodynamics. In this lecture, we are going to see the statements of the second law of thermodynamics, in which Kelvin-Planck statements and Clausius statements that we are going to study. Next, we are going to study how the second law divides the processes into two categories, that is reversible and irreversible, and whether Kelvin-Planck and Clausius statements are equivalent to each other. So this part we are going to study in this session or video. Now, if you see the second law of thermodynamics states that 100% energy conversion is not possible if that energy we want to convert heat energy into work, then 100% conversion is not possible. These limitations put by second law of thermodynamics. The energy conversion occurs in the certain directions. For example, we can convert heat energy into the work, but reverse it is difficult or not possible. For example, in two-wheeler engine, automobile two-wheeler engine, we can produce the heat from the petrol or diesel, and that can be utilized for doing the work or displacement of vehicle from one place to other place. Reverse is not true. Like if you displace the vehicle from one place to other place, and then you will not get the same amount of heat energy generated in the heat engine, or you will not get the petrol inside the engine. Therefore, the processes are happening in certain directions. This can be studied with the help of this second law of thermodynamics. If you see the first statements of the second law of thermodynamics, which talks about 100% heat conversion is not possible into the work. So the statements of second law of thermodynamics, it is impossible for a heat engine to produce net work by exchanging heat with a single thermal reservoir. So for a heat engine, it is impossible to produce the work. If you see, this is the thermal reservoir from which Q1 amount of heat is given to the engine, and it will produce W amount of work. Thus, Kelvin-Planck statement tells us that such engine is impossible. That is, you will not get W is equal to Q1 and efficiency output W divided by Q1, but W and Q1 are equal, so efficiency is 100%. Such engine is impossible. Then what is possible? The possible is this engine has to reject heat, some amount of heat, to the sink or another thermal reservoir, then such engine is possible. Okay. The next statement is next part. Any heat engine has to work between two reservoirs. Okay. The heat engine should not work with a single thermal reservoir. It should have minimum two thermal reservoirs. Then and then only it will produce the heat. It will produce the work. If you see the first case, if it is possible to produce the work by exchanging heat with a single thermal reservoir, then that heat engine is called as a perpetual motion machine of a second kind. So in perpetual motion machine of a second kind, heat engine takes Q1 amount of heat from a single thermal reservoir or a source and produce equal amount of work, that is Q1 is equal to W. Okay, and for such engine the efficiency is 100%, that is W divided by Q1, but W and Q1 are equal, so efficiency is 100%. But according to the Kelvin-Planck statements, such engine is impossible. Then what is a possible? Possible is the case 2. What is it? This engine takes Q1 amount of heat, does some amount of work, remaining amount of heat Q2 is rejected to the sink. So this is the perfect heat engine which produce W output, work output W, by receiving Q1 amount of heat and rejecting Q2 amount of heat. For such heat engine, what is the efficiency? So for such heat engine, efficiency is W divided by heat supplied. So that is W divided by Q1. But according to the first law, we can write for this engine, heat engine, the incoming energy is a Q1 and energy leaving the systems are W and Q2. If we apply energy in is equal to energy out, so we are getting Q1 is equal to W plus Q2, so W is equal to Q1 minus Q2, W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. So efficiency is W divided by Q1 and W is Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q1. So finally we are getting efficiency is 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So this is the efficiency of a heat engine that can be calculated with the help of first law of thermodynamics and definition of efficiency. So this is the formula of a efficiency of a heat engine. The next statements of the second law of thermodynamics is called as a Clausius statements. So second law of thermodynamics has many statements, and out of which two are popular, those are Kelvin-Planck and Clausius statements, so that we are studying. The second law of thermodynamics, and that too Clausius statements, talks about the directions of the process. Okay, so directions of energy flow, so that we can study. The first we will see the statements of Clausius. It is impossible to construct a device which while operating in a cycle will produce no effect other than transfer of heat from cold body to hot body. So Clausius statements talks about it is impossible for a device to transfer heat from cold body to hot body. Okay, means here let us take, this is the high temperature reservoir which is a T1 and low temperature reservoir which is a T2. So T1 is greater than T2 and there is a heat transfer from low temperature body to high temperature body with the help of some device. This is a heat pump, or you can take a refrigerator. But for these devices, it is such devices are impossible that can be seen with the help of Clausius statements. It is impossible for a device to transfer heat from low temperature body T2 to the high temperature body T1. Okay, then what is possible? If it is impossible, then what is possible? The possible we can see in this slide. Before that, whatever we have seen, that is the Clausius statements. If it is possible to transfer heat from low temperature reservoir to the high temperature reservoir, okay, with the help of some device like a heat pump without consuming any energy, then that device we call it as a perpetual motion machine of a second kind. Okay, and Clausius statements tells us that such device is impossible. Such device is impossible. Then when it is possible to transfer heat from low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir, it is possible for a heat pump and a refrigerator by consuming W amount of work. By consuming W amount of work, it is possible for a device to transfer heat from low temperature body to high temperature body by consuming W amount of work, and such device we call it as a heat pump or a refrigerator. Such device we call it as a heat pump or a refrigerator. ठीक है. If you see the heat pump or refrigerator, how to calculate the COP. For refrigerator, the output is this Q2, heat rejected or heat taken out from the cold room or the some space. Then Q2 is the output and W is the input. For refrigerator, COP is Q2 by W input. So this is a W in, not out. So, and W is, generally we know that W is Q1 minus Q2. So you can replace in place of W Q1 minus Q2. Similarly, for COP of a heat pump, output is a Q1. Output is a Q1. So Q1 divided by W in. So that we can calculate COP heat pump is equal to Q1 upon Q1 minus Q2. Okay. So that we have seen in the earlier lecture. Okay. So in the next slide we will see what is the reversibility and irreversibility. Second law of thermodynamics divides all the processes into two categories, that is reversible or ideal process and irreversible or real process. What is meant by reversible process? Process which undergoes through series of change of states but can be reversed back to its original state without having any impact on the surrounding, or no losses occurs during the processes. In this diagram, if the process is happening from A to B, and for a reverse process, if the same path is followed, then this process is called as a reversible process. If a path followed is a different, like if this path followed is B to A, red colored one, then it is not called as a reversible process. Then it is called as a reversible process. Reversible process in which no losses occurs during the process, that we need to remember. The losses are zero in the reversible process and there is no impact on the surrounding because of that process. The reversible process is carried out very slowly. Every intermediate state appears to be in equilibrium for a reversible process. A reversible process is also called as a quasi-static process. So this is about the reversible process. Now the reversible process is shown by the dark line on any plane, like 1 to 2 process. If it is the reversible process, then it is shown by the dark line. If some processes are shown by a dotted line, these are called as a irreversible process. Now that we will see, irreversible process means the process happens because of the friction. Whenever there is a friction, then that process is called as a irreversible process. And some other losses which cannot be recovered when the reverse path is followed, then such processes we call it as a irreversible processes. If the original state A is achieved, there will be an impact on the inverse, that is entropy of the inverse would increases. Again, such process we call it as a irreversible process. Irreversibility happens due to friction, fluid viscosity, magnetic hysteresis, etc. In an irreversible process, the process cannot follow the same path to reach the original state. If you see, if this is the some PV plane, compression process is there. Let us consider this is a compression process. During compression process, there is a friction between the piston and the cylinder wall, or friction between the gaseous particles. Because of that, the path followed during the reverse process is not the same. It may be different like this. Okay, so then this process we call it as a irreversible process. Irreversible process generally drawn by dotted line. Now we have seen, or we know that three laws of thermodynamics. So in some MCQ, the questions will be asked about these laws. Okay, so what is that? The from the first law, from the zeroth law, the temperature property were defined. From the first law, internal energy property were defined, and from second law, we can talk about the entropy and exergy. So second law gives birth to the property called as entropy. First law gives the birth to the property called as internal energy, and zeroth law gives to the birth to the property called as a temperature. And third law talks about the perfect disorder, and perfect disorders appears at 0 Kelvin, where entropy is assumed it as a 0. Now we will see whether there is any equivalence between the Kelvin-Planck statement and Clausius statements. There are two ways to check the equivalence between the Kelvin-Planck statements and Clausius statements. If you take the negative Kelvin-Planck statements, and if it leads to the negative Clausius statements, then we call it as both statements are equivalent to each other. If you take the positive Kelvin-Planck statements, and if which leads to the positive Clausius statements, again we call it as both statements are equivalent to each other. To prove both statements are equivalent, we have to assume that negative Kelvin-Planck statements and check whether we are getting negative Clausius statements. By considering negative Kelvin-Planck statements, and if it leads to negative Clausius statements, then conclusion is both statements are equivalent to each other. So what is the negative Kelvin-Planck statements? The negative Kelvin-Planck statements. The positive Kelvin-Planck statements is that it is impossible for a device. It is impossible for a cyclically operating device produce W amount of work by consuming or by exchanging heat with a single thermal reservoir. So Kelvin-Planck statements tells us that it is impossible for a device to work with a single thermal reservoir and produce W amount of work. This is a positive statement. Its negative is what? It is a possible. So such device is a possible, and that we are considering it is possible. We are assuming negative Kelvin-Planck statements, and which tells us that it is possible for a cyclically operating device to produce W amount of work by exchanging heat with a single thermal reservoir. So that we have considered. So engine 1 here in this diagram exchanges heat with a source, that is a Q1 amount of heat. So here W is equal to Q1, here W is equal to, here W is equal to Q1. Second, we have assumed it is a heat pump which takes W amount of work to transfer heat from sink to the source. Okay, so heat pump, to operate this heat pump, W amount of work is required, and this heat pump gives heat to the source or rejects heat to the source, that is a QH amount of heat it will reject to the source, and this QH is equal to QL plus W. Here it is one thought that whatever work produced by engine 1, which is the same as work required to operate this heat pump. So whatever work produced by engine 1, if you give it to the heat pump, then both the system it will operate. So in the second diagram, in which you can see the work produced by heat engine 1 were given to operate this heat pump. Okay, this W is equal to Q1, and here we have considered QH is equal to QL plus W according to the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, so QH is equal to QL, W is nothing but Q1. Here we have proved W is nothing but QL. So when this heat pump rejects heat to the source, it is rejecting heat, that is a QL plus QH, QL plus Q1. So in this QH, the heat is QL plus Q1. So for heat engine, Q1 amount of heat is required, and heat pump rejecting Q1 plus QL amount of heat. That Q1, if you give it to the heat engine to operate, then remaining amount of heat, that is a QL amount of heat, that will be rejected to the source by the heat pump. So this heat pump transfers heat, QL amount of heat to the source. Remaining amount of heat Q1 is given to the heat engine. This heat engine produces W amount of work that will be given to the heat pump. Now, if you see in this red colored box, it operates by its own without consuming any energy from the outside. Okay, and this the ultimate aim, the ultimate thing, if you see, there is a transfer of heat QL amount of heat is transferred from sink to the source without consuming any external energy. If you consider inside this red box, no external work is given. It is operating inside by their own, and the ultimate conclusion out of this is that there is a transfer of heat, QL amount of heat from sink to the source by not consuming any external energy, and it violates the Clausius statements. Okay, so we have assumed negative Kelvin-Planck statements, which leads to the negative Clausius statements, and therefore we call it as a both statements are equivalent to each other, and both, if statements are different, still its conclusion is same. So we call it as a both statements are a second law of thermodynamics, and both are correct statements and both are equivalent to each other. So in this video we have seen Kelvin-Planck statements, Clausius statements, what is reversible and irreversible process, and equivalence between Kelvin-Planck and Clausius statements. These are the references were used for this presentation. So thank you for watching this video. In the next lecture, we are going to study problems on second law of thermodynamics.